everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Globe Interview Series. I'm your host, Sunlight, and today I'm delighted to welcome onto the show culture manufacturer Halim Flowers. Hey, Halim, how are you?
I'm blessed. How you doing?
I'm also blessed. I love that. The Globe mobile app is now live on the Apple App Store. Trade anytime, anywhere, with any asset as collateral. Stay connected with all your positions on the go. Globe, exchange everything, now even easier. So, we were just talking about, culture manufacturer, right? And to me, manufacturer has a kind of artificial connotation to it. So can you actually give us an introduction to yourself and what you do as a culture manufacturer?
For me, a manufacturer is one who produces things, who makes things. And when you look at the etymological definition of the word art or artist, an artist is one who makes things. And for me, when you look at these institutions that we have that they call museums, someone like myself, a museum is just it's a seat of the muses, and it's a place where culture is housed, exhibited, and to exist in perpetuity. So for me, whether it's the 11 books that I have published, whether it's the numerous amount of spoken word performances that I have done, my crypto rap album, my paintings that hangs in galleries and museums throughout the world, in people homes and offices, my fashion, my sneakers, these are all cultural contributions to humanity, some that would stand the test of time. And so for me, all of this is manufactured from my imagination, which I call my image nation. And that's the manufacturing of it.
Amazing, thank you. So before we jump into all your works, I believe that a lot of your inspiration came from your background, right? So could you give us an introduction?
Definitely, all of my like I did a painting last night, and a person may ask me, how long did it take for you to do the painting? And I'll be like, 42 years, all of my life. So for me, my unique experience is being born in America, which is globally recognized as like the most powerfulest in material sense, in military sense, the most powerful nation on the earth, nation state. And I just happened to be born in the capital of the United States of America, Washington, D.C. But me being socially constructed as Black in America and poor, even though I lived in walking distance from the U.S. Capitol, the White House, the Pentagon, the Federal Reserve Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, I was so powerless. So that is like the origin of my experience, being socially constructed as Black, being so closely in, being in such close proximity to power, whether it's institutions or and all of the ripple effects that come from being so close to power, but yet being so far from it due to race and class. And when you take into account the introduction of crack cocaine, which manufactured a gun violence culture in Washington, D.C., we had the highest murder rate of any city in America for a long period of years. And then we had the longest incarceration rate of any city in the world for almost 20 years. So my life is like that paradox of one who is so close to power and wealth, but yet so far removed from it. And for me, it's like being a child and being highly academically gifted and aware of what was going on, but yet not allowing what people told me about my race or my class to confine me to stay within the boundaries that had been set for people of my social stratification. So, and that's always just been my influence, is like trying to find a way in the middle of extreme power and powerlessness. You know, it's just that these two extremities, and where do I fit in at the middle? Not only to exist in the middle, but to be a bridge to bring both of these entities together, the powerful and the powerless.
Amazing. Yeah. So talking more on your, bridging the gap between the powerful and the powerless, you mentioned in your LBS talk last month that, you've always had entrepreneurial and creative skills. So can you tell me a bit about your core values and how does that translate into your business practices?
My core values has always been one of peace, like just peace and just like humility. But my first entrepreneurial venture when I was 12 was selling crack cocaine, selling drugs.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was so much like violence in my community, and I really just felt like I was going to die. Like everybody kept telling me that I would be dead before I was 18 or before I was 21. And at that time, I didn't know any venture capitalists. We didn't have social media and all of these different apps that you can use to start your fashion and your music. So the only examples that I had in my community in 1992 of people who shared my racial classification and my class status of being poor, who were able to be economically or financially successful, were the drug dealers. So even opportunity to take collegiate courses when I was 11, I couldn't see how me finishing school would get me out of my environment, economically, when people are constantly telling me I'm gonna be dead before I'm 18. So what I learned from selling drugs, what I learned from that is that when you develop a product, or when you commit to selling a product that brings harm to others' lives, it's a price to be paid for that, because it's not moral and it's not ethical. So what I learned from that experience, even though I was extremely gifted at it, because I have the number one thing that's important for any entrepreneur is I really care about people. So I have good customer relations, and I have a will to stay up and work when others may want to party or go to sleep. But what I learned is that you should never commit to selling a product or service that takes away value from the humanity of the consumer. So that was like the most important that I learned from that. And when it came time to pay for that, I ended up being incarcerated for a murder that I didn't commit. And the government never said that I shot the person. They said that I was with a friend who had shot and murdered someone. And I wasn't with him when he shot the person. But me understanding universal law now, at the age of 42, more clearly than I did at the age of 16 when I was initially arrested, I just had to pay. I had to be held accountable, and to be willing to be held accountable for selling so many people a narcotic drug that was destroying their humanity through their addiction to this crack cocaine. And I had the opportunity, I was offered the opportunity to cooperate with the government, and that they would release me if I just told them that my friend did it. But I did have enough moral integrity to not do that, because I was the one who chose to sell drugs when I was 12. I put myself in a position to be accused of things like that. And when it comes time to suffer the punishment or experience the consequences for one's decisions, I, even at the age of 16, knew that it was just something that you had to do, and that you don't implicate other people to try to get away from your karma. What you have to do, you have to change yourself. And that's what I set out to do. So when I was 16, I was incarcerated. I was convicted at trial for being an unarmed aid and abettor to a felony murder. I was given 2 life sentences. And I realized that I had this great academic career that I had that I just gave away. I realized that it would be what would help me to get out. But I knew that I really had to change myself before I got out, because I knew that I would never accept a life of living in poverty, but I had to find a way to be able to become wealthy that was legal. Well, first, that's moral, because everything that's legal to me isn't moral. But I had to find a way to create and build wealth that was moral and that was legal, right? And I had the rest of my life to do it, you know. So that was my journey at the age of 16, just sitting inside of a cage and being told, after all of those years growing up, being told that I would die before I was 18. Now I was being told that I would die in prison, and I never accepted neither one.
What really resonates with me, what you just said, is that you're kind of paying the karma on selling narcotics. And do you think, you know, going to prison, 2 life sentences, and can equate to selling drugs?
I can't say that it equates, because like we all have our own individual journey. I definitely can say that I don't think that it's humane to because in America, the penal system is known as a Department of Corrections. I don't think that if a human being makes a mistake, that it is fair, just, or humane to, as a form of retribution and deterrence, to confine them to an inhumane environment and condition. Rather, I think that what it does, in most cases, it perpetuates a cycle of harm. So this person who's an offender, he or she causes harm, and you have one who are the victims. They're not receiving the healing through just this person being put in an inhumane prison. The only satisfaction that they can, I guess, enjoy is knowing that the person is suffering, but that's not healing them. You know what I'm saying? It's just reciprocating a culture of you harm me, I harm you. And as long as you're being harmed, then I feel whole because I'm hurting and you're hurting, but no one is healing. And that's why our culture of imprisonment and recidivism is the worst in the world. And it's no love in it. So for me, what I really realized was that all in all, I was missing love. And all of love's beautiful attributes, gratitude and compassion and empathy and kindness. And that's just for me, that's like what I had set out to do. But like, does sentencing a child under the age of 18 or an adult to a life term in prison for selling drugs or for even shooting someone, is that karmic justice? I can't say. But what I can say is that I would never advocate for confining any human being, irregardless of what harm they may have caused. I wouldn't advocate for, as a form of retribution, causing them to, confining them to be in an inhumane, cruel and unusual environment in perpetuity. I don't find justice in that, because I don't think that's a loving solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. So, right. So when you were in prison, so you you mentioned you published 11 books and, countless poetry. So what was your inspiration at this time? And of course, so you also got out in 2019, just when NFTs were starting to, come into the mainstream. I was wondering, like, did you know about NFTs while you were still inside, or?
I didn't hear about NFTs until, man, it probably had to be during the quarantine, like 2020 or 21. But cryptocurrency, if you go back and Google search, it was an article about me in 2014. It was released in 2013, 13 maybe. 13, it was 2013, September 11, 2013. How I know is because my first fashion show was September 11th, 2022. And I didn't realize that these both had happened on the same day until recently. But I was in prison serving life. And what had happened was I used to read the Wall Street Journal, and I read an article about a young man who had got accumulated some wealth through this new thing called cryptocurrency. And he was on house arrest because they had charged him with like a wire transfer. It was one of those charges because of the new nature of the crypto blockchain movement. And I remember just seeing the article and feeling sad for this young guy because he was on house arrest, and he just became a millionaire through cryptocurrency. He's on house arrest inside of his penthouse in New York. And somehow I looked him up. I had somebody look him up, and I wrote him a letter. And I never heard from this young man. So I thought like maybe he didn't get the letter. But what had happened was he got the letter, and when the guy from the Upstart Business Journal, Michael Del Castillo, was coming to interview him, so he was like, well, how does it feel, to be an entrepreneur? You 20, you finally become a millionaire, and now you're on home confinement. And he was like, you really shouldn't be interviewing me today. And he was like, why you say that? He's like, I just read this letter from this guy that's locked up. He said, I think you should interview him. And he gave the reporter my name. And the reporter had interviewed me, and I was saying like, okay, when I get out, I want to start a fashion brand. But I say all that to say is that I was aware of crypto in 2013, and I wanted to get into it, but I just didn't have access to the internet and social media and the blogs and all of the things that were instrumental in developing this community to where we are today. So when I had the opportunity to get out in 2019, after 22 years of incarceration, I had to like get to the bare necessities of life and living. And then once the quarantine came, I had a moment to be still and to start to like really invest time capital and sweat equity into being a genuine member of this community.
Mm-hmm. And now, yeah, so let's talk a bit more about your work in the blockchain space. So you've had success not only as a fashion designer and a physical artist, but you've also worked with NFTs. And one thing that I remember from your talk at LBS was the one shoe for each year you were incarcerated. That was a really, really interesting story. Could you share a bit about that with our audience?
Yes. I was released on March 21st, 2019. And in March 21st, 2000, I'm looking up like I don't be knowing what year it is no more. March 21st of this year, 2022, it was my 3rd year anniversary of me returning back to society. So what I did was, of course, I always like product development that incorporates storytelling. So I designed a shoe, which I discovered was 23 years incarceration, not 22. So I designed a sneaker for 1997, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, all the way up into 2019. And for each sneaker was designed uniquely for what I experienced in that unique year. And for each sneaker, I created an audio documentary because I wanted, because it was only one pair of sneaker that was being sold for each year. But for me, as an entrepreneur, I always, what I learned in studying economics is that you always want to give the consumer, the customer, more in value than the dollar amount that they give you for the product or the service. So for me, with this beautiful time that we're in, where you can create a digital asset out of anything on a blockchain with the NFT market, I created this physical product, which was the sneaker, with this audio documentary for each year, capturing uh, my trauma, my joys, whatever I was going through for that year, that informed the design of that sneaker. And the person who bought the shoe for that year, they were given that audio documentary with the encouragement to allow my brand to develop a little bit more. As you can see now, as you can see, my social media is growing, and there's some very big things coming on the horizon pretty soon, but God willing. But and for them to create a mint that audio documentary into an NFT collection when they saw fit, that they would have, it would be a demand for it on the market. So that was that project right there.
Amazing. Yep. So if I can get my timeline right, so you started out on, physical art, as we can see in the background. It's amazing, by the way. I have to say, it's giving me like Basquiat vibes, because, it's not just about the visuals, it's more about the message behind it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me why, as a successful physical artist already, why NFTs? And yeah, when you're already successful in the physical art world?
Mm-hmm. For me, one has to be very conscientious on the words that we use to describe people, places, and things. And because what I realized in communication is that we use words to express how we feel, but we think that that word that we're using can mean the same thing that it means to us to the other person. So and I say that to say, because the word success or successful, right? For me, creating, taking my imagination, creating these intellectually aesthetic products known as paintings. But most of the monetization that gets done with my products in this regard with the paintings is done through galleries, right, that are not owned by me. So I have to give somebody 50% of the revenue for each piece. And I have very little control on who they sell it to. And when if the collector decides to auction the piece, and say the piece auctions for, say if they paid $30,000 for a painting, and then as my brand is growing, they auction the piece off, and the piece auctions off for $1 million. I don't get any of that, right? So for me, being successful in any manufacturing of any cultural asset that I manufacture is when that I control the pipeline of how the production, the distribution, the consumption is 100% controlled by me. So I don't feel like I'm successful because I had the opportunity to make $1 million selling paintings. I don't feel like I'm successful until I have the capacity to be able to control the production and distribution and consumption of things that are manufactured from my imagination, and I'm able to scale it in a way to where as though I can help others to control what they're doing, right? You know, so 100%, and to benefit from their works in perpetuity. And that's what the NFT market offers that no other market does, is that every time someone, recently I had like 10 of my NFTs. I don't know what was going on. I don't know why this was happening, but someone was going on the market, and instead of them buying the NFTs that I had available on OpenSea, they were buying all of my NFTs from people who already owned it. So I was getting all of these secondary sale
Right.
added to my wallet and the notifications of them. And I would screenshot them out and I would post them on social media because right now our community is under threat because it's new and people can't control it who want to control everything. So they putting this messaging out that the crypto market is down, but the equity market is down and the interest rates are high. So it's like, you know, and we're not in this just to get rich. We're in this because why I'm in this is because I don't feel that any creative is successful as long as we have systems in place and institutions in place to where as though the one who manufactured the cultural asset is beholden by people who had no part in the production. And it's the system set up to where as though you can't get to the collectors or you can't get a certain price point without going through these predators who prey on artists. They send these artists to these massive fine arts programs. They discourage them from learning the business of art, and they have this pipeline, this Masters of Fine Arts to Gallery pipeline set up to where as though the creative, the artist, is clueless on how to run a studio, and their whole practice is subjected to being the prey of gallerists and art dealers. So that's why I'm in this community, because I feel like I'm one who grew up down the street from the Federal Reserve, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, and yet people who look like me are in abject poverty. And I don't see no humanity in a system that exists where 1 to 5% of the people control 90 to 95% of the wealth. So I just feel like with the NFT market, with the Web 3.0, it's a hope. And that's what people need, is hope. It's a hope to restore. I can't even say restore because I don't think it ever existed under the current economic structure that we have now. So I'm gonna say that we have the hope to manufacture a system where people can come together as communities and create economies and currencies and validations of such, right, through smart contracts and blockchain, you know, through caring for one another and not exploiting one another and solely profiteering off one another. And I think that's dope. I'm a dreamer though. I'm very optimistic. I'm a dreamer. I'm a philanthropist, not meaning that I'm a billionaire in Federal Reserve notes and I donate to charities. The etymological definition of a philanthropist is one who loves human beings. And I genuinely love human beings, and I can never feel like I'm successful because I made $1 million. selling paintings and clothes and music, and the bulk of the people who I grew up with are struggling and poor, and you know, can't afford basic medical treatment and things of that nature. So for me, that's not success. So it's like someone harms you or someone wrongs you. Of course, hurt people hurt people. Or when you harm, you want a sense of like justice. You want a sense of like compensation from being unjustly harmed. Um, but it doesn't have to be void of love. You know, like it doesn't have to be from an emotion of anger and fear and negativity. It can be from a space of love. So even those who wrongly accuse me, and whatever wrong that I've received from people, places, things, systems, institutions in my life, it's important. It's important for me to not personalize it, to forgive them, because I know that I've harmed people unjustly, and it had nothing to do with the person. It had everything to do with me, because I was hurting. And me, the beauty of having blood on my hands is that I know what the one who has blood on their hands, what they're going through, and I know that they can become loving people because I became a loving person. And I'm not as judgmental as someone who feel as though that their hands have never had dirt on them before. Like they've always lived a Puritan lifestyle and they've never harmed anyone. And so for one, they can't, it's difficult for them to empathize with those who harm, and they have no lived experience. And I have the lived experience. And for me, it's like, so when I experience injustice and being wronged and harmed unjustly, I can forgive because I understand it's not, I haven't done anything to this person, right? So it's not personally about me. It's something that they're going through in their life, and they're at a juncture where I was once at, where they don't have the tools to be able to access more healthier options on how to deal with the hurt that they feel, right? And me, I had to learn how to like to breathe and to stretch and to exercise, and what type of music to listen to, and what type of foods to eat, what type of conversations to have, what type of people to allow into my cipher that would be conducive to a positive mentality and a good vibration for the moment, for the day, for the week, the month, the year. All of that takes cultivation. It's like planting seeds, and you know, so we're all engaged in agricultural manufacturing. We're just not aware of it. That, you know, when you choose to watch a special about Jeffrey Dahmer, right? You're you're consuming a messaging, a programming about one who killed and eat people, and it's going to be an outcome to allowing that into your mind and into your spirit. And for me, I understand that people, especially where I'm from, people are more encouraged to become rich in Federal Reserve promissory notes, or to don the appearance. This is new to me, this social media, that didn't exist when I was growing up. When I was growing up, you just wanted to hustle and get money. Now it's like you have this thing where you can just appear to be wealthy and engage with all these filters and, you know, messaging these perceptions of wealth and affluence, but it's not really there intrinsically, right? Or in reality, you know. So it's like, and understanding, you know, like people are dealing with all these different influences, and they're fighting to make the best decision. And when they're hurting, and when they haven't had their parents, their elders, their neighbors, their community, their influences to encourage them to love themselves and others unconditionally, to see the interconnectedness between humanity and not to be separated by the social constructions of race, gender, class, creed, sexuality. You know, they have very unloving, very unhealthy engagements with themselves and others. And when it impacts you, you have to be compassionate enough to understand that any human being who has done the work on cultivating love and self, they never go out to seek to harm people intentionally. So you know you're dealing with a pain body individual. And you once being the drug dealer, right? The person who engaged in gun violence and knife violence, and you can see it and you can smile at it and you can embrace it and you can pray for it and hope for it to become better and not to reciprocate it, through seeking, punitive retribution. So I hope I made that plain.
What speaks to you about blockchain, knowing that your core value is love and, the interconnectedness of love in humanity? So how does blockchain come into it?
For me, what blockchain comes into it, for me, once again, going back to my origin of, I grew up in a world, in a city that had so many institutional power in a way of militarization and wealth creation. But yet it wasn't transparent. It was esoteric. Like, most people don't know and not encouraged to know or to learn the difference between a stock and a bond, and what is a mortgage, and what is the money supply, M1, M2, M3. What does this mean? How the Federal Reserve Bank was created, how it works, how the International Monetary Fund works, and the World Bank. And so for me, what I love so much about the blockchain is the transparency. And to give one example, recently, I think it was the World Health Organization, they made a tweet that if Elon Musk and another billionaire was to donate a certain percentage of their wealth, that they can end world hunger. So Elon Musk tweeted back, was like, okay, I'll give it to you, but I'm going to give it to you on a blockchain, right? I'll give it to you, but I want to give it to you on a blockchain. And everything that you do, what I give you, I want you to do it on a blockchain so I can see what you're doing with my money. And then the organization backed off, right? So when I hear, because I'm not a Democrat nor a Republican nor independent, I'm a manufacturer culture, so I can't commit to any parties. Black Lives Matter, no parties, no organizations. I'm a free agent because I have to have an opinion that's not biased. So when I look at like politicians who promote, they campaign on transparency, because I'm one who grew up, so close to government organizations that I feel like are not loving. The outputs haven't been loving to the whole of the society in the world, right? So I believe that we will not receive efficient financing that is conducive to the masses of people or government until it's put on a blockchain. And it's the same way in the nonprofit industrial complex. I believe that this nonprofit industrial complex has become very disingenuous. And it's a lot of things that happens with funds that, and even if it's not a lot, even if it's just a little bit, but things happen with the funds that are not in conformity with the mission statement, of these nonprofit organizations. So if everybody is saying that they care about humanity and they're loving and they want to do the best thing for their constituents, and let's put it all on the blockchain. So I'm someone who published 11 books about my life. I'm someone who the government labeled me a menace to society, they say, for this act that I've done and publicly promoted a narrative about me being a menace to society and wanted me to accept responsibility publicly for the worst things that I have done. So let's just put everything on a blockchain, and that way we have a true account that's not biased, of all of the transactions that's happening with the money. And let's start with the Federal Reserve. Let's start with the Treasury Department and all of these nonprofit organizations. Let's just put everything on a blockchain so that way we can have true documentation and accountability for what is happening with the wealth. Because if wealth is a man-made creation and currency is nothing more than Federal Reserve notes or other promissory notes from central banks throughout the world, and it's something that we manufacture, why is it that masses of people don't have access to it? Whereas though they can't get the basic necessities of medical and food and water, when we have people who have billions and billions and billions of, and I don't hate the 1%. I'm not a 1% hater. I'm building towards being a billionaire, a trillionaire. I just love people, and I love positive outcomes, and I come from nothing. And I know what it's like to not have nothing, to have to do immoral things, illegal things to make money, right? And suffer the consequences of that. So I just don't want it to be whereas though I'm looking back at my life in the moments of me taking my last breaths, and I know I didn't live my life in a way to enriching others. And I believe that the blockchain is what I know to be the most efficient way to have true transparency on what is happening with this wealth that's being created and why it's not reaching so many people, which is just unfathomable to me. I know how it happens. It's just like, why do we continue to allow it to happen? Because we all need each other. Even the billionaires like me, I would need someone to ship my paintings and wrap my paintings and, cook my foods and dry clean my clothes and wash my car. Why can't everybody be compensated for the contributions that they, fairly, to where as though they can have a healthy standard of living? Why can't they have that when we see that we all need each other?
Exactly. So what do you think if there were to be a Fed DAO? What do you think? Because that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I already do paintings about it. I call it the Dow Jones, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, DAO, instead of DOW. And I think that it would be so empowering, because like now what it would do is that it would inform people, the common people, more as to what really happens with wealth. Like, I guarantee you 99% of the people of the world have no understanding of fractional reserve banking. They have no understanding of the difference between monetary policy and fiscal policy. So it's like, by this all being made transparent from the Fed and the Central Bank of England and, the EU Central Bank, all of the central banks in the world become transparent, and every transaction is happening on the blockchain. Now we can create whole infrastructures and curriculum to where though even a child comes up having a basic understanding of what is the blockchain and how to see, okay, when the interest rates are increased, how it impacts their life. The cost of the cereal that they like to eat or the toys they want to get for Christmas is like how the interest rate takes from their parents' income and have to put it into the rent or the mortgage. And now they can't get that toy that they want. And they can literally see this through coming up reading smart contracts as they come up, looking at TikTok and, Snapchat. And, it's just too esoteric. So for me, that's what it would look like. It would be something that, and most people still probably wouldn't tap into it because like economics is not sexy to most people like it is to us. But at least we know that we will have a place where people can go and to tap into what's going on with the money. And it would be nothing vague about it. You know, it would be right there, made plain. We've seen that the Federal Reserve did this and the Treasury Department did that as a result of that. And this amount of money was put into the market. We know where it fit in that, and we know it went to these banks, you know, with these banks lended to these corporations, and these corporations hired this many people and fired this many people. And so it just would make things more clear. And I think with clarity, when you have accuracy and brevity and clarity, as you can see with this interview, I'm not as good with brevity, but you know, it leads to efficiency. You know, when things are accurate, they're brief and they're clear, and it makes it more accessible and more comprehensible to the common masses of people.
Amazing, thank you. So I'd actually love to know, what are your plans within the Web3 space now?
Wow. For me, because I just dropped my crypto rap album, so I've been asked to like do videos, and I'm like, I want to do like a metaverse video, like, you know, I want to do concerts in the metaverse. I want to my passion is motivational speaking. My passion is, I like to paint and it makes good money, and I like designing sneakers and clothes, but my passion is curating conversations that inspire people to be loving and to be dope and to be great, and they really care about themselves and others, and to see the interconnected. I really want to be like Deepak Chopra. I want to be like Eckhart Tolle, you know, Thich Nhat Hanh. These are my, this what I want to do is for a career, and I want to do it in the metaverse. You know, I want to have my own land, my own sanctuary where my own community could come and access music, poetry, fashion, sneakers. I separate the both because they are different. Literature and visual intellectual aesthetics that are conducive to cultivating love, self-empowerment, compassion, empathy, gratitude. Because in the metaverse, it will be no borders. We won't have to worry about wearing masks, and it's a safe space where people can come to and blossom, and you know, and to grow, irregardless of their social, you know, stratification. So that's my ultimate. But also in the world outside of the metaverse, I'm looking to, like, I have to create this horizontal product line. So my end goal is books, the music, the spoken word performances, the public speaking, the motivational speaking, the fashion, the sneakers, the documentary that's coming out. I'm developing this horizontal line of products for in 2023 to scale everything tremendously, like unbelievably, with the goal is to say, like, if I had just 20% of, just 10% of a demand that a Kanye West has for his sneakers. And I know he's a controversial figure right now, but I'm just using him as an example from a product development. If he were, when he released his last album, he didn't put it on the streaming platforms. He made everybody get a stem player. If I were him, or when I get to 10% to where he's at in his product development, his revenue stream, the only way you will be able to access any of my manufactured assets, you will have to do it through my crypto coin. And because the US dollar has no intrinsic value. It's fiat because it's not backed by anything, any precious metals or anything of that nature. When I create my cryptocurrency, the Ideaneers coin, it will be backed by my products. And when you have products like paintings, when you mention like a Basquiat type of situation, you know that you're creating assets that will appreciate in perpetuity, right? And so when you have that, and I didn't even count my NFTs, but when you have that type of product back in your currency, then now your evaluation is endless, because there's no way to evaluate necessarily one who manufactures so many wealth creations in so many different tiers or product lines. So for me, and then once I get that trillionaire status through having my own cryptocurrency that's backed by a multi-billion-dollar revenue stream through all these different products that I'm doing, then it's like now I can engage and I will have access to the capital to start building the infrastructure to like adding the egalitarianism to the world in a genuine way, like really having institutions where impoverished children and people from all of the world can come and can learn about love and compassion and wealth creation, not just like spirituality, but also the monetary, that duality, and start to collaborate with other billionaires and things of that nature, governments or non-government organizations, and to really like start creating some urgency. Like me, I live with, that's the blessing, that's the privilege of being Black, is that you can be killed any day, no matter whether you're rich or poor. If you're poor, then you live in the hood and you can just get hit with a straight bullet any day. But if you're rich, you can just be an upper middle class, rich African American, and you can be jogging in this affluent, predominantly non-Black neighborhood, and just for jogging, your neighbors can chase you down and kill you, right? So, and it's a privilege with that for me because I live with such urgency. And I think that in this billionaire pledge community that they have, and let's just say that we say that all of them had noble intentions, but do they have the urgency is where it's like if they were told in the middle of wake up, you literally might be about to lose everything that you've built, like your company, everything is going down. That urgency that they feel like, what's like, do they have that urgency to create systems and institutions to really like to end poverty? And poverty is not just a financial statement. It's also like a mentality and acceptance of, not having, and the expectation to not have. I think that is the greatest poverty in the world. It's not that people don't have money or food or water. It's being born in those environments and accepting that you're not going to have and that you're not worthy of having anything more. So that's the poverty that I'm seeking to use this space for once I get to my end goal.
That's amazing. Wow. Gosh, I
Because
just don't even know
it's a
how
lot
to
of wealthy,
process.
it is a lot of wealthy, poor people. Trust me, as an artist, I've been blessed through the art gallery world, the museum world, to develop genuine interactions and even relationships with a lot of wealthy people. And a lot of them are poor, and a lot of them value me, and they want me around them because they acknowledge that my appreciation for life and my philosophy of love and interconnectedness is infectious to them. And they be like, we don't hear this. Like, you have had the opportunity to do work on yourself that we haven't had. And what you have is so priceless that for us to give you $50,000 or $80,000 for some paintings is nothing. We just want your presence. It's more than just the paintings, it's the presence. And So it's a lot of people who people celebrate as influencers or look up to them in awe because of their ability to be able to receive a favorable appraisal from the Forbes or the other people in the world who other people rely on to dictate to them how much they are worth, which I don't. I say what I am worth, but other people give other people that authority to validate their net worth. And people look up to these people, but these people are very poor. They have nothing but money. They have no happiness. They have no true joy. Their wealth causes them to be very paranoid about trusting people, and they don't have anything but money and toys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I just need a moment to process that. But one little comment, if you'll let me play devil's advocate for a second here. So you said that your token, your coin will be backed by your product, right? By your, let's say, art. But then, okay, let's say a skeptic will say, but art is subjective. So how can you quantify a subjective product?
That goes back to what I mentioned about how if I ask a person, how much is your house worth? They're not going to be able to tell me what it's worth. They're going to go to a website or to an appraiser to dictate to them the value of what they own. And for me, I'm saying that yes, everything is subjective, not just art. Apple is subjective, iPhones is subjective, but Apple know what they're going to charge you for their phone because they know the value that phone adds to your existence. And for me, I just happen to be one who had a couple of decades to be in isolation and confinement to be able to really study humanity and all of its cultures, all of its creations, whether religion or philosophy or theology or different economic systems and isms. And what I realized was that I am unwilling to give anyone the authority to dictate to me their evaluation of what was created by my imagination. This is my image nation, and I'm only using these Federal Reserve notes that have no intrinsic value to try to, as a tool to measure the value of what I'm creating. And even that's within its nature is not even efficient, but I have to engage with the world through the language with which they understand. Because if you're a visionary, like if you're Copernicus, if you're a Da Vinci, if you're a Mansa Musa or Imhotep, you already know that you're ahead of your time. So when you're ahead of your time, you always run the risk of being like misunderstood. And I see the time thing and you accept that. You accept what comes with that. So for me, it's like I know everything is subjective. The value of everything is subjective, but most people they can only measure their value through dollar amounts. And I'm not confined to that evaluation. Because if I was, then why would I be in the NFT Web 3.0? You know, like I would find validation in the systems that's already created. So for me, when I say that my token or my coin will be backed by my cultural assets that I manufactured from my image nation, which is my factory. I truly believe that my paintings, my sneakers, my clothes, my poetry, my books, my conversations are philanthropic in nature, and that they add the most important wealth creation to humanity, and that's love. And I'm standing on that. And even though it's subjective, I'm going to run the risk of seeming clinically insane for believing in love, and that love is the most valued asset in the world. And but it's okay. I've been always to be known to be unrealistic my whole life. No one thought that I would be a millionaire after doing 22 years in prison. Everyone told me to get a job and then you do your business on the side. I never listened to anyone, and I'm here. And what I'm saying is that if I am granted the privilege to be alive and healthy by 2030, you will see. You will remember this conversation. God willing, it will be recorded. And 8 years from now, you will see what I was saying and my ability to activate it, to manifest it, and the value of love that I'm adding to people's lives through the music, through the fashion, through the interviews, through the NFTs. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, don't bill me for this time for your conversation.
Oh, good. I love to talk, as you can see. I love to talk. I love to talk more than painting.
Are you going to create like a Web3 collective of creatives, essentially?
I'm just creating, I'm in the process of in my factory. I know like all of these dope people, like especially like young people, like I mentor and they mentor me. It's not just one way because they're younger. Like we inform one another, but I know like there's like talented photographers and you know, fashion manufacturers and you know, just web developers and artists who don't know each other and don't work together. And I believe the old African proverb, you know, if you want to go faster, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. And I think that my journey of going faster has come to an end. And now it's time to go farther. And I have all of these beautiful people that I know and that I've worked with, and they don't know each other. And we can do so much more together inside and outside the Web 3.0 space if we just come together as a collective. And I think that when you see me going to this collectiveness in 2023, you're about to witness a scaling where you be like, damn, I remember like, and now it's like, and it's like because I'm not alone anymore. You know, I have my mastermind group and I have my family and my community and my collective, and we're moving as one. And we're not solely concerned initially with the money that we're going to make. We're more focused on the value that we're adding to the consumer, right? And if you just focus on that and you genuinely add value to the consumer, then they won't mind exchanging their Federal Reserve notes for your NFTs, whether it be, we can create an NFT out of this conversation. You know, like, whereas though this can be edited down to 30 minutes and you like, okay, now we have the whole 2 hours. That was so much more, but we had to micro manage it down to this. But if you want the whole thing, then boom, and you could sell it for $1. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's we live in such a blessed time to create wealth and add value to people. But the main thing is like adding value to people and not being concerned initially with making money. Because when you do that, then you can go into what is immoral. Because now it's not even about caring about the people. It's just caring about the profit. And I think that's where capitalism and corporatism has caused harm. Because I'm not anti-capitalist and I'm not anti-corporate. I'm not anti-anything. Though people would love for me to be, but I'm just pro-love. And whatever I see, a policy or a corporation or whatever, if I just feel like it's not conducive to love, then I'm just like, I don't think that's the most loving thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Thank you for this kind of refreshing take on entrepreneurialism, right? It's not about the money, it's about the value that you can give to someone else. And yeah, it's really given me a window into your value. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like that's the best way to make money though. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Right.
really like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just saying it because I'm on some type of religious spiritual trip. I really believe like when I'm hungry, like after this interview, I gotta taste. I forgot the interview. I was working out. My assistant called me like, "You ready?" I'm like, "For what?" The interview. I'm like, "What? It's like 6 o'clock tonight." She's like, "No, it's like in 10 minutes." Like, damn, I don't even got time to be, get in the shower or nothing. So it's like I just hit down a smoothie. But after this, my wife and I go to Starbucks and get some coffee. And when that cinnamon dolce loche, whatever is made right, or that caramel macchiato with those 3 extra vanilla, the value that adds to me far supersedes the $5 that I'm gonna give them. And I'll keep coming back because it made me feel good. And when, as the entrepreneur, when you focus on when a person puts that painting on the wall, right? They feel so good when they see it, and then they want to invite people to their space to show them, because they know like when the people see it, it looks different. It just looks different. And the person be like, "Man, look, who did that?" And they be like, "No, listen to this audio where he described the piece." And they looking at the person, wow, I get one, right? Because you intellectually explain the aesthetic, the intellectual aesthetic in a way that it added something to them that they didn't have before. And every time that they see it, they can remember how they felt, and they explain it to people, and they want to pass that down. And it far supersedes the amount. So someone could come to them, their grandkids, like, "Hey, his paintings are auctioning. He's dead now. He's been dead for 20 years. His paintings are auctioned for hundreds of millions of dollars." Like, nah, I remember how my grandmother felt about that piece. And I still have the audio documentary. Maybe I might mint this into an NFT collection, but that piece, it stays, because of the value that it added to the consumer. So, and I think that's the ultimate way to get money. And people just don't understand like how good they feel when they engage with a great product or service, whether it's a massage or getting your pedicure or your manicure. All of these things are products and services that make you feel better about yourself. And people are just so focused on either being popular or being rich that they don't focus on the value of the product and the content that they're manufacturing. So for me, it's like, I think it's the easiest way to get money. And I learned this from selling drugs. Even though selling drugs was illegal and immoral, right? If you have the good dope, they're going to come because the dope is good. The high is good, and now you sell hope because the hope gives a high. It's intoxicating. It's infectious, and people might can't afford a $15,000 paint, but they can get a $20 pair of socks, and your art is on the socks. They might can't afford $1,000 NFT, but then you make some NFTs for $20. They just want to connect to feeling good. So,
So it all boils down to feelings.
yeah,
Yeah,
because that's all evaluation is. It's just a feeling. Like people say that Jay-Z is worth this and Rihanna is, they're billionaires, but that's just somebody's feeling about their products. That's it. They feel that it's worth this and they appraise it at this. And one day Elon Musk is the richest person in the world, and then people feel that the Tesla shares are overvalued and it loses half of its value on the market, and now he's fifth on the list. The Tesla is still the Tesla. The car didn't change. It's just how people felt about the evaluation of the company that changed, you know.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much. Right. So do you have any, closing thoughts for us?
My closing thoughts is the embrace your imagination. Adulting dulls one's joy in imagining a different world, creating a different world. One thing that prison did for me, I remember being a kid and like not having access to toys and at certain moments. And I would like play. I would like create something out of nothing, even if it just was a credit card. Like this is my Coinbase credit card too. So
Let's see the back.
And you would just take it and be like, and so entrepreneurship, the Web 3.0 space, is so much about imagination. It's so much about joy. And if you don't love what you're doing, and if you don't find joy in what you're doing, then it may be best is to get a job that you enjoy, because your greatest resource is your time and your health. Because if somebody said, well, I'll offer you $1 billion, but you have to die tomorrow, you'd be like, hell no, I ain't gonna be alive to enjoy it. I'll offer you $1 billion, but you have to live on a dialysis machine for the rest of your life. Like, no, why would I want to do that? So your time and your health is worth more than your money. And just find what means what you value the most, not what Forbes or, all these other institutions that have been given authority to validate or to dictate to others their value, as measured by a price with a Federal Reserve note that has no intrinsic value. Find what you value the most. Define yourself, appraise yourself, believe in your appraisal, and you dictate to the world and how you conduct yourself in a loving and a graceful way, not in an arrogant way, not in a cocky way, but in a graceful, but in a confident way. How you value your imagination and the things that you, whether it be product or service that you engage the market with through your self-enterprise, and never allow others to dictate to you how they appraise your creativity, your products and your services. And always, I'll guarantee you, you will never be without money if you focus on adding value to the people who you want to give you their money. There's so many products and services who are focused on nothing but making money, revenue creation, that the value of their products and services is lacking. And every human being wants quality, whether it's in a massage or pedicure or album that they're listening to or a pair of sneakers that they're wearing, even an NFT. It may not be the visual aesthetic of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, but it's that feeling of exclusivity. And that's what they find quality in, just being exclusive. But it's a quality that they feel that's added to them, because it validates to them, it validates that they are a part of a club that other people can't be a part of. And they find value in that, but just like really understand, what it is that you value, and always self-appraise before you give others the authority to dictate to you what they think that, you know, your products and services are worth. And just because you post something one time, it don't sell, don't give up. I think that's the greatest message. Like, you can, someone who did 22 years in prison and have no college degree and still was able to, after 22 years in prison, in the midst of a global pandemic, to still become a millionaire. I feel like I'm a trillionaire, but at least in their eyes, how they evaluate my art, I'm a millionaire. And to give talks at London Business School. So if I can do it, I don't believe in Marvel comic superheroes. Anybody can do it. It's just that I really believe in me. And I value me as a trillionaire. And I'm not waiting for me to die to see that my art is worth hundreds of millions of Federal Reserve promissory notes.
Amazing. Also, I love how you call it Federal Reserve notes. Like, like it just speaks to how trivial and imaginative it is, right?
I mean, that's the thing, is that, like, I always say that because most people don't know. They don't know about the Federal Reserve. And I come from a community where with a person with, these are 60 by 40 paintings, so they might go for like 20,000, 20 to 30,000. Where I come from, a person that kill your whole family. If I go to my hood and tell somebody, I give you 20 or 30,000, I need you to kill a whole family, they would go kill somebody's whole family for just a painting, right? It's so weird to me, because, like, I can set the painting in the hood and they be like, man, what we gonna do with that? They have, it's of no value to them. But the money that somebody would pay for this, they would take out a whole family. And my thing is that, like, the urgency of which I spoke about with the philanthropy is that, how could I be successful when people in my community would take a family for the value of a painting? So I have to explain to them in the hood that this that you're willing to take life for is just a Federal Reserve promissory note. Any human being can write a promissory note. It just has to be accepted for value. You see what I'm saying? So for me, that's my passion, is that I come from a place where people don't understand this. We risk and give our lives for something that has no intrinsic value, but the value that's in them, in the hood, is billions of dollars of wealth that's in them, but they just don't have the confidence and they don't have access to the mentors and the capital to monetize their ideas. But they don't have to sell drugs. They don't have to carjack somebody for a car, right? So for me, that's where the importance of what I'm doing and why I'm even on social media. I want people who come from where I come from to understand what wealth is and understand that you are the greatest source of wealth. You create wealth, and that you should never harm life in any form for something that has no intrinsic value. You know, so it's just like, it's just a different way of them needing to see. And that's why when I do my interviews and my conversations, I always just say Federal Reserve promissory note. And then it's a conversation after that, like, people write promissory notes every day, but people from where I'm from don't know this, you know? So, and that's why I love the blockchain, because it gives the people that transparency and gives everyone the opportunity to at least access what's really going on.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time as well.
Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give us a like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much, Halim, and I'll see you next time. Bye.